Hold on. Get a little closer. All right, I'll count us in. 3, 2. Hello, friends.
We're Hail the Sun.
We're here in Portland recording LP5, and we wanted to check in with a little insight on how we prepared for this album.
For this album, I really wanted to strain my voice in a way that I had it before. So I spent a few hours a day screaming in my car as a vocal warm-up. Like that.
I wanted to focus on my technique as well, but my hands are too small for standard grip trainers. Oddly enough, I found that cans of White Claw were perfectly sized to provide a perfect distribution of strain.
You do have really small hands.
I know.
I mean, I focused on technique too, but I just practiced scales and arpeggios. I practiced all of my parts, I practiced all of Shane's parts, and I even practiced the bass parts. I pretty much brought my guitar everywhere I could and just practiced.
Anything to drink or anything else?
Yeah, a medium Baja Blast Light. How about you, Shane? What'd you do to prepare?
I prepared as any would for such an important task, with 8-hour blocks of open-eyed meditation. 3 8-hour blocks of open-eyed meditation has brought me to a level of oneness I once only dreamed of. I watched the threads of space and time weave themselves into the blanket of all that is and all that ever was or will be. The residual cosmic energy of rock and roll echoing through the void spoke out to me.
Shane?
It reminded me that all we seek may be found within ourselves.
Shane!
And it revealed to me the answers to all of life's most complex problems. For instance,
Shane! Are you gonna play your parts or not?
Sean, okay?
Yeah, this happens sometimes.
Okay, let's do another take.
All right.
I'm Donovan Malero from Hail the Sun. Hail the Sun started really with Eric and I in high school, the end of high school. Moved to Chico, California, met John and Shane in 2009.
I had known Donovan for about a year, I would say, and I knew John for about a year and a half because he and I moved in right next door to each other in the dorms.
You would hear me playing bass and I would hear him playing guitar, so that's kind of how we naturally came together.
But we weren't really familiar with Eric. We had just heard stories about him, even though John, Donnie, and I had actually all played a little bit of music together. But then Eric came into the picture.
I think it was Valentine's Day, 2009 or 2010 was when I had first met Shane. We had a jam that day, and Donnie had told me before, like, hey, I think you're going to like this guy. I think you and him are going to jam pretty well together. And he was right. Like, we got in that room together, and it just flowed, like, super easily.
I thought the two of them would get along real well, and I thought Shane was a fantastic guitarist, and I knew Eric was. And me and Eric left his apartment knowing we just fit so well. We knew we really wanted to keep creating with Shane. We just met. She was good at writing lead guitar parts to chords we had, or vice versa. And he would do interesting chords, and he was writing stuff, he would play stuff and write stuff that was against the grain of other people I'd written with, like normal chords, normal song structures. He was good at contributing to just stuff that I would have never heard.
I, at that point in my life, had never jammed with anybody who really just meshed with my style, and I feel like they felt pretty similarly, especially regarding this kind of music, or I don't know what we were coming up with that night, but all of our chords sounded pretty together, and so we knew we had something pretty cool naturally. 4 of the songs on Pow Right and the Kisser were written by Donnie and Eric alone, and John and I ended up learning them for that record. So part of our coming together was learning the material that they had come up with already. Part of it was experimenting with what us as new friends were going to be coming up with, and that's the other half of that album.
A little known fact, Hail the Sun did have a bassist, mine and Eric's good friend, still a really good friend. His name was Juan. But he played bass with us from 2007 to 2009. But he was doing school stuff, and we booked a tour, and we needed a bassist. And so Shane had mentioned seeing if John would be down to fill in for some shows for Hail.
Yeah, we formed a band for a Battle of the Bands for a spring show that freshman year. and we called ourselves Cow. And then Donovan was like, well, I want to book a tour throughout California, because he really wanted to get into the booking side of things. And I said, I'm down for that. That sounds really great.
And after the tour, we're like, hey, you're in now. You have no choice. You're in. I think he was like, cool. But also like, okay, we'll see. What if he still held a grudge that we never asked him? We just told him. That's what I remember. I remember being like, cool, dude, you should be our bassist. Like, we have all this other stuff coming up. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, if I can make it work. It was more like that.
And from there, we just haven't stopped. Just kept touring on our off breaks of school, summer and winter, and then just kind of snowballed. We kept doing it. Kept getting shows, kept writing music. I think that was mainly just California. We might have went up to Oregon. And, we'd never done anything like that, any of us. And Donovan was pretty much just calling bars that he would look on a map and be like, all right, let's go to this city, play here. And then we'd show up, and there'd be nobody there, obviously. It was just us kind of trying it out. But it was good for us to get up there and just play live music and work on our live show. I think that's kind of what was the biggest takeaway. We were able to just play and learn each other live and learn the energy that we were trying to get at. So it's very different from 10 years ago now.